There is a reason the most powerful men alive feel untouchable. And it's not money, status, or intelligence. It's something far more dangerous. They cannot be tracked, predicted, or reached. The world can't use what it cannot find. And until you learn to disappear from noise, opinions, and expectation, you will never rise. Because the first step to real power isn't being seen. It's becoming invisible. Point 1. The law of invisibility. Why being seen as your weakness? The world can only attack what it can touch, track, or read. The moment people understand you, your plans, your habits, your mindset, you stop being a threat and start becoming a target. Power begins the second your presence becomes unpredictable. There's a brutal truth about life that most men never discover. Not because it's complicated, but because it's uncomfortable. You will never become powerful, never become wealthy, never become truly dangerous. As long as you remain easy to find, visibility feels harmless. You think that being known, being recognized, being understood is something positive, something that helps you climb. But what no one told you is this: visibility is the death of strategy. The more people know about you, where you are, what you're thinking, what you're planning, what motivates you, the easier you are to contain. You stop being a player in the game. You become a predictable piece on the board. A pawn other people can move, block, or sacrifice. And here's the real problem. You trained yourself to be visible, not intentionally, but through years of a culture that taught you to reveal everything. From childhood, you were told, share your ideas, tell people your goals, explain your plans. Let everyone know what you're working toward. And you obeyed. You opened the doors of your mind for the world to walk through freely. But in doing so, you gave away the only advantage the powerful ever keep: mystery. The unknown is intimidating. The unseen is feared. The unreadable is respected. But you've become easy to read, easy to decode, easy to predict. You announce your intentions before you begin. You show your progress before it's real. You talk about your future more than you work for it. And every time you do that, you hand the world a map of your weaknesses. Because people aren't listening to support you, they're listening to calculate you. Most people around you aren't cheering for your rise. They're quietly hoping you stay exactly where you are, familiar, predictable, non-threatening. They'll encourage you, but only enough to keep you moving in circles, not enough to let you outrun them. They'll applaud you, but only as long as your growth stays below their comfort zone. The moment your ambition threatens their identity, they will try subtly, politely, quietly to pull you back, not because you harmed them, but because you dared to evolve faster than they're comfortable witnessing, and you make it easy for them. Because you expose every thought, every goal, every move. You reveal your strategy before you've built any strength to protect it. That's where the sabotage begins, not out in the open, but through doubt, negativity, subtle discouragement, and the invisible pressure to stay small. Asterisk. This is why your ascent never starts. Not because you're incapable, but because you're overexposed. Asterisk. A visible man can be stopped. A predictable man can be controlled. A reachable man can be destroyed. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who allows the world to read his intentions gives away his throne before he ever sits on it. Invisibility is not about isolation. It's about strategy. It means you move without announcing. You build without explaining. You cut off unnecessary noise. You disappear from circles that drain you. You stop giving people access to your inner world. You stop handing out your plans like leaflets. You detach from the need to be seen. You let your silence do what your words never could. When you operate like this, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. No one can prepare for you. No one can sabotage your moves. No one can intercept your momentum. No one can slow you down because they no longer know which direction you're running. Silence becomes your shield. Privacy becomes your strategy. Distance becomes your strength. And your results, the ones they never saw coming, become your revenge. Because the moment people can no longer track you, they can no longer stop you. Your mission grows in the dark. Your identity evolves in the dark. Your discipline sharpens in the dark. Your future is carved in the dark. And when you finally reappear, you don't look like a man who worked hard. You look like a man who transformed. Asterisk, asterisk. That is the law of invisibility. Your power begins when your presence ends. Asterisk, asterisk, before you move to the next principle. Comment one word. Invisible to lock this into your identity. Point 2. Becoming a ghost. The power of silence. A loud man is easy to predict. A predictable man is easy to control. But a silent man? No one knows what he's building. And that uncertainty is what makes him dangerous. Once you understand that visibility makes you vulnerable, the next transformation begins. You must learn the discipline of silence, because the truth is simple. You cannot be unstoppable if you are reachable. You cannot be strategic if you are predictable. And you cannot be powerful if your emotions, plans, and intentions are available to anyone who asks. The strongest men in history weren't loud. They weren't constantly explaining their effort, justifying their grind, or announcing every step of their evolution. They mastered something far more lethal: silence as a weapon. A ghost does not narrate his journey. He does not broadcast his sacrifices. He does not reveal his patterns. He does not report his progress like a schoolchild showing homework to the class. A ghost acts. And while he acts, the world remains blind. They don't know what he's planning. They don't know whether he's struggling or rising. They don't know if he's resting or calculating. They don't know if he's about to fail or about to take the throne. That is why he wins. But you give people unlimited access. You respond instantly. You explain your moods. You reveal your dreams. You confess your fears. You hand out updates like flyers on a street corner. You treat exposure as communication, when it's actually weakness. Every message you answer instantly tells people you're not in control of your time. Every emotional response reveals exactly which buttons can be used against you. Every plan you describe gives strangers insight into your next move, and the world only needs one of those openings to influence you, redirect you, interrupt you, or destroy your momentum completely. Machiavelli warned that men obey their present impulses, meaning you don't need to be overpowered, just influenced, just steered a little, just nudged emotionally in the wrong moment. You don't need an enemy with strength. You only need someone with access. Silence is how you remove that access. The elite understand this deeply. Look at the modern world. The most powerful people don't reveal their goals online. They don't publicly explain their strategy. They don't declare their next move. They don't live for approval. They move in shadows, quietly, efficiently, intentionally. Their silence is not fear. It's strategy, because every word you speak becomes evidence someone can use against you. Every detail you reveal becomes leverage for someone else. Silence protects your mind from intrusion, your plans from sabotage, your emotions from manipulation, your identity from being rewritten by others. The loudest men attract attention, but attention attracts enemies, critics, competitors, and parasites. The silent man, he attracts nothing, and because nothing touches him, nothing can interfere with his ascent. But here's the darker truth. Your biggest enemy is not the world. It's your internal addiction to being reachable, your craving to be understood, your hunger for validation, that impulse to reply instantly, to share prematurely, to explain emotionally. This is the leash around your neck. That part of you that wants attention is the very part that keeps you small. And until you kill that craving, you cannot rise. Because silence is not just external, it's internal first. It's the ability to not explain your hurt, not broadcast your effort, not announce your building, not seek applause, not look for praise you haven't yet earned. It's the mastery of withholding, not to deceive, but to protect. Asterisk, asterisk. A man who cannot control his exposure cannot control his life. Asterisk, asterisk. When you begin operating in silence, you become unreadable. And unreadable men cannot be defeated because no one knows where to strike. They can't see your weaknesses. They can't measure your ambition. They can't time your moves. They can't anticipate your growth. And uncertainty terrifies people. They can't categorize you. They can't place you. They can't manage you. So they fear you, not because you're loud, but because you're quiet. Not because they know you, but because they don't. This is why history's most dangerous men were not the ones shouting orders, but the ones whose silence forced entire rooms to wait for their next move. The quiet man controls the battlefield long before the first strike. He wins with confusion, unpredictability, and unreadability. So what is the transformation here? You must become the man who no longer needs to speak to feel powerful, who no longer needs to be understood to feel confident, who no longer needs attention to feel alive. Because when silence becomes your default, your presence becomes sharper, your actions become heavier, and your results hit harder. A ghost is not weak. A ghost is untouchable. He doesn't need noise. The world feels him anyway. Point 3. Erasing yourself. Cutting off access. Not everyone who has access to you deserves it. And the more available you are, the easier it is for the world to interrupt you, drain you, redirect you, and own parts of you that should belong only to your mission. Power begins when access ends. Here is the most uncomfortable truth you will ever face. The enemy that keeps you stuck, the force that sabotages your growth, the reason you feel drained, delayed, and distracted isn't outside of you. It's inside you. It's your addiction to being reachable. Your desire to be seen, your craving for acknowledgement, your hunger for validation. That secret, fragile part of you that wants someone to notice your effort before the result ever exists. This is the true trap. Not poverty, not lack of opportunity, not a bad environment, but the internal need to be witnessed. Because as long as you need attention, you will always stay visible. And as long as you stay visible, you will always be weak. Let's go deeper. You mistake visibility for value. You believe, if people don't see my progress, it doesn't count. If they don't acknowledge my grind, it isn't real. If no one knows what I'm working on, I'm not doing enough. This is identity poverty. The internal emptiness that convinces men that being watched is the same as being worth something. It's not. Visibility creates dopamine, but invisibility creates power. The crowd claps for the spectacle, but they fear the man they cannot measure. And here is where most men destroy their own rise. They reveal the entire path before taking a single step. They talk about mastering discipline before they can control their impulses. They announce new habits before they practice them twice. They declare new goals before they even built the structure to pursue them. They expose the blueprint before they have even laid a single brick. And in doing so, they make themselves predictable, readable, stoppable. Because the crowd doesn't elevate you, it consumes you. Machiavelli warned that the man who becomes a spectacle becomes property of the crowd, meaning you belong to whoever is watching you. Once people think they know your journey, they feel entitled to judge it. They think they can measure your progress. They think they get a vote in your pace. They think they can expect things from you. and expectations become chains. Every time you share a new plan, a new habit, a new goal, a new direction, you give the world leverage over you. They will comment, they will criticize, they will compare, they will question, they will doubt, they will judge, not because you are wrong, but because they finally have something to hold against you. You place your evolution in the hands of people who aren't evolving, and that is how you lose. This is why you must begin the process of erasing yourself. Cutting off access is not cruelty. It's strategy. It is the intentional removal of environments that drain you, people who slow you, conversations that weaken you, relationships that distract you, routines that entertain your ego but starve your future. Because people attack what they can see. They judge what they can understand. They sabotage what they can predict. But they respect what they cannot read. When your movements become silent, your presence becomes heavier. Your distance becomes louder. Your absence becomes a statement. People begin to feel something they cannot explain. A shift in your energy. A new version of you emerging in the dark. They don't know what's happening, but they know something is changing because they can feel that. They've lost access to parts of you they once controlled. And this is exactly where your real ascent begins, because the moment you become less reachable, you become more powerful, people will panic. They will accuse you of changing. They will say you're distant, arrogant, cold, not because you wronged them, but because they can no longer predict you. They can no longer influence you. They can no longer shape the version of you that exists in their mind. They feel threatened because you're no longer available to maintain their comfort. Good. Let them feel uncomfortable. Let them feel confused. Let them feel the loss of the old you. That discomfort is the first confirmation that you are finally evolving. A powerful man does not apologize for his silence. He does not negotiate access. He does not justify distance. He simply pulls back, rebuilds, and reappears as someone they never expected. And the people who cannot handle your silence are exactly the people who should never see your success. Why this matters more than anything? Because when no one knows, if you're struggling or rising, if you're resting or building, if you're losing or learning, if you're preparing or executing, you become untouchable. Machiavelli said that a ruler must become a mystery to his subjects, not to confuse them, but to prevent them from controlling him. Predictability is the death of ambition. Unreadability is the birth of power. You must become the man people cannot measure, cannot track, cannot fully understand. That is when you become dangerous. That is when you become unstoppable. That is when the world finally realizes you are no longer part of the noise. You have risen above it. Before we go to the next stage, comment unseen to lock this identity into the next version of you. Point 4. Rising through the shadows, becoming untouchable. The moment people stop knowing where you are in life, whether you're building, resting, rising, or regrouping, that's the moment you become powerful. Uncertainty in their mind becomes strength in your hands. Most men never reach this stage, not because they can't, but because this level demands something they're terrified to lose. Accessibility. To rise through the shadows is to detach from the world's expectations and attach yourself only to your mission. It means reclaiming your time, your energy, your direction, and refusing to be a man who can be casually reached or emotionally manipulated. Let's break it down. You say you want wealth. You say you want power. You say you want a life beyond ordinary men. But you still give everyone access to your mind. You still let people interrupt your momentum. You still let emotions dictate your actions. You still react to noise that doesn't deserve a second of your life. You have no filter. You have no boundary. You have no internal gatekeeper. And a man without boundaries is a man without direction. The moment you detach from noise, You reconnect with purpose. Here's the shift most men never experience. When you become less reachable, your clarity increases. Your vision sharpens. The fog of the world disappears. You start hearing your own thoughts instead of the echo of everyone else's voices. And suddenly, your mission becomes unmistakable. But here's what you must expect. People will not celebrate this transformation that the very moment you pull back, become less available, less emotional, less instantly responsive. People panic not because you harmed them, but because they no longer control the version of you they created in their mind. When your growth disrupts their expectations, they feel betrayed. When your silence replaces your explanations, they feel abandoned. When your focus replaces your availability, they feel threatened. Good. This is the signal you have finally begun rising. Your silence becomes your power. Men fear what they cannot see. Men respect what they cannot predict. Men worship what they cannot understand. When you are everywhere, you are common. But when you pull back into the shadows, you become rare. Your absence becomes heavier than your old presence. Your quiet becomes more unsettling than your old noise. Your unpredictability becomes your shield. Machiavelli knew this. Men fear more what they cannot see than what they do, meaning, your invisibility becomes your advantage. Your unpredictability becomes your weapon. Your silence becomes your fortress. In the shadows, you become a man with no obvious weaknesses, no visible patterns, no predictable responses, no emotional openings, no schedule the world can depend on. You become someone people can no longer influence or manipulate or slow down. This is why the elite operate in the dark. They are not hiding. They're building. They don't need applause because applause weakens focus. They don't need recognition because recognition feeds ego. They don't need visibility because visibility creates pressure, expectation, and sabotage. They build empires quietly, without distractions, without attachment, without the world's fingerprints all over their progress. History's greatest victories were prepared in silence. Battles planned in secret chambers. Strategies refined away from crowds. Transformations forged in solitude. Skills sharpened when no one was watching. The world only sees the result, never the preparation. They see the explosion. Never the fuse. They see the rise. Never the rebuilding. They see the victory. Never the sacrifice. And that's exactly how it should be. Because the work you do in the dark must be protected from the world's noise. Why most men fail to rise? Because deep down, they want to be seen more than they want to win. They want to be applauded more than they want to build. They want attention more than evolution. They want validation more than transformation. And that's why they stay stuck. Because the moment the world can track you, it can slow you. The moment the world can predict you, it can block you. The moment the world can categorize you, it can control you. To rise, you must vanish. To dominate, you must become unreadable. To evolve, you must become uninterruptible. When you disappear, your ascent becomes inevitable. Think about it. When no one knows what you're building, how far you've come, what you're planning, how much you've improved, what you're sacrificing, what you're preparing. No one can sabotage it. Your evolution becomes untouchable. Your path becomes uncorrupted. Your growth becomes pure. Your momentum becomes unstoppable. People will whisper. They'll speculate. They'll wonder. Good. Let them wonder. Because the work they cannot see is the work they cannot interfere with. The man they cannot track is the man they cannot block. The rise they cannot predict is the rise they cannot prevent. This is how you rise through the shadows, not with noise, not with announcements, not with explanations, but with silence, discipline, and strategic invisibility. Point 5. The final ascension. When the man who disappeared returns unstoppably. Man who disappears is not retreating. He's rebuilding. And when he returns, he doesn't come back as the person he used to be. He comes back as the version no one is prepared to face. This final stage is the one almost no man reaches, not because it's impossible, but because it requires the destruction of every weak version of yourself you've ever been. To rise at this level, you must become someone that the world can no longer predict, interrupt, or influence. Someone who answers to purpose, not pressure. Someone who serves the mission, not the crowd. Someone who does not need validation, permission, or applause. This is the stage where the shadows turn from hiding places into transformation chambers, because the man who walks into the darkness is not the same man who walks back out. Asterisk, asterisk. The world thinks silence means you stopped, but silence means you shifted. Asterisk, asterisk. When you disappear from the noise, everyone assumes you slowed down. That's because they measure progress through visibility, and visibility is the one thing you no longer give them. While they think you paused, you were sharpening discipline. While they think you vanished, you were restructuring your identity. While they think you quit, you were building weapons they'll never see coming. They expected you to be predictable. Instead, you became unreadable. They expected you to stay in place. Instead, you evolved beyond recognition. They expected updates. Instead, they got results. This is the paradox of the ascension. Asterisk, asterisk. When a man stops announcing his growth accelerates. Asterisk, asterisk. You become a force the world cannot map in the stage. You become someone the world cannot track. They don't know your priorities, routines, new beliefs, new abilities, new direction, new mindset, new standards, new level of discipline. Uncertainty is the birthplace of power. People cannot attack what they cannot see. They cannot sabotage what they cannot access. They cannot interfere with what they cannot measure. By removing visibility, you remove vulnerability. And by removing vulnerability, you become untouchable. You rise because you no longer seek understanding. Most men fail at this stage because they still want to be understood. They want their silence justified. They want their distance forgiven. They want their evolution accepted. But a powerful man does not explain himself. He does not translate his vision into words for people who don't share it. He does not shrink his mission to fit the comfort of those who refuse to grow. He does not ask permission to become the person he's destined to become. He simply rises. If people misunderstand your silence, let them. If they misinterpret your boundaries, let them. If they call it arrogance, distance, coldness, let them. Because they are describing the version of you that no longer exists. Your new identity is forged in a place they can't access. Every powerful transformation has a private price. You lose people. You lose habits. You lose environments. You lose old identities. You lose versions of yourself that were built from insecurity, fear, and approval. This is not loss, it is extraction. You are removing everything that once kept you small. And once those layers fall away, your real self emerges. A man with absolute control over his emotions, mastery over his direction, boundaries that protect his purpose, a mind fortified against noise, a heart immune to validation, a mission that does not negotiate, a discipline that does not fluctuate. This is who walks out of the shadows. Not the man who left, but the man who was always meant to be born. The world will realize too late what you became one day. Without warning, you will reappear, not through announcement, not through explanation, not through noise, but through results so undeniable that people are forced to confront their doubts. They will see the transformation they didn't witness. They will feel the power they didn't expect. They will face the man they can no longer influence. They will ask, how did he do it? When did this happen? Who did he become? And by the time they ask, it's already too late. Your rise will not be loud. It will be inevitable. Your results will not be debated. They will be feared. Your presence will not be questioned. It will be respected, because the man who ascends from the shadows is no longer playing the world's game. He's rewriting it. Asterisk, asterisk. This is the final truth. You cannot rise publicly until you evolve privately. Asterisk, asterisk. The shadows are not your prison. They are your forge. And the man who learns to think in silence, build in silence, improve in silence, bleed in silence, and rise in silence is the man the world will never be ready for. This is the final stage. The ascension, the emergence, the rebirth. Not celebrated, not understood, not applauded. Just undeniable. Asterisk, 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 CLOSNG. In the end, remember this: the world doesn't reward noise, it rewards results. If this video opened your eyes, drop one comment. What did you learn? Your answer is your first step into the shadows. And before you disappear to build, make sure you subscribe to Silent Crew, the only place where men rise quietly and return unstoppable.